Hey guys, I'm Randy Unger, and it's a very special edition of Unger the Radar, where we talk all things film. I'm your host, Randy Unger, and I have with me a wonderful panel of guest critics. We're going to be discussing Ghostbusters Afterlife, the fourth film in the Ghostbusters franchise. Technically, the third film. It's canon. We also have the video game, which is also that's canon. But this movie is very faithful to the original and basically follows the storyline. It's a great. I love it. I'm a little biased, obviously, because I am a New York City Ghostbuster. Matt Haberman, also known as Kid Champagne, is also a fellow New York City Ghostbuster. So yeah, we're very biased.
I mean, we are biased, but I will give him my hands on it. But honestly, I'm very excited for this. Yeah. I just had to be there for this because anything Ghostbusters, I'm in there.
I'm there too.
Mr. Forrest Bennett, welcome back, sir. Also a big Ghostbusters fan in your own right.
Yes, I mean the original is one of my top 10 movies of all time. Group with the real Ghostbusters and the Extreme Ghostbusters.
Nice.
And I watch the second movie every New Year's Eve. So
I watch it just every few months. I'll be honest with you guys.
My tradition is Ghostbusters 2 on New Year's Day.
Yes, and we're gonna get into a little bit more of that.
Yes,
later in the episode. But Nick Commando also joining us through Zoom. Welcome, Nick. Welcome back to the show.
Hi.
I want to start with you. Are you a ghost head or a big fan of the franchise?
I enjoy the movies. I think that the Ghostbusters franchise in general is really benefits from the passionate fandom that it has, because I think on their own, I think the movies are okay. I don't think they're, and I think you guys would agree with this. I don't think I'm saying anything particularly blasphemous, but I don't necessarily think that they're like cinematic masterpieces by any stretch. I think they are good movies. I think they have a solid story, and I think the characters are very relatable and very admirable in a lot of the things that they do. But to me, when I think of Ghostbusters, I think of the fans before I think of the actual films. I think of the passion of guys like you, Randy, and Matt and Forrest, who so passionately love this film franchise and so passionately care about everything that the Ghostbusters stand for, more so than I think of the films. Now, I thoroughly enjoy all of the films, aside from the female one. I just thought that one tried too hard. But, I do very much enjoy the Ghostbusters films.
Yeah, and it's definitely for me personally, it's all about nostalgia. Like, I've been a ghost head since I was about 4 years old. The first movie I ever saw was Ghostbusters 2. I remember going to the theater to see it. I had all the toys. I watched it religiously on VHS, and I still do on Blu-ray, DVD, whatever. And I dress up as one. So I'm 36 and I'm a Ghostbuster. But I've been a Ghostbuster all my life. That's basically the point. It's I think it goes back to parenting. Like, our parents put us in front of a screen and showed us movie magic, and that has stuck with us.
Well, my introduction to Ghostbusters was the real Ghostbusters.
Okay.
Yes. I remember because I was born in '87, so about a year after real Ghostbusters started. But then I remember when I was 5 years old, my parents rented me the first movie. Nice. For me and a friend, like we were having my friend Rob, who has been on the show before.
Oh, Rob Fonda.
Yes. Yep. We were little. My parents rented the first movie. At the time I was expecting it to be a feature length cartoon.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Because I only knew the real Ghostbusters up to that point. So when I saw the movie, I was like, "What's this?" And then like once the theme song kicked in, I'm like,
"Yeah, you gotta like go by Ghostbusters 2, then the cartoon." I think because they match in style and tone. The first movie is a little bit different in tone.
Yeah, well, it's much more adult. Like, there's a lot more adult humor in the first movie.
It has more of that Stripes feel.
Yeah,
Ivan Reitman. But Matt, I'm curious, what was the first memory that you have of Ghostbusters?
Well, I would have to be my first memory is going back to how Forrest was. I started watching first the real Ghostbusters before I even heard of the Ghostbusters of the movie.
Movies,
Right.
And one time, I guess when I first I was watching the real Ghostbusters on the cartoons, and I've been getting all the toys, and my dad just introduced hey, here's Ghostbusters, and I'm looking, I was like, what is this? And then I've been hearing oh, that's Peter Venkman. Oh, I know that's one of the characters. And then Egon, I was like, oh, okay, so this is Ghostbusters. And then the theme song hit. It's like, wow.
There's just something about it. It's the perfect, the music, the visuals, the acting,
the car.
Yeah,
oh,
the gadgets.
The Ecto 1 is brilliant. The Ecto 1A is great. But then the toys. We've got the toys that really solidify. Like I would play the movie while I'm playing with the toys.
Yeah.
And it was just a perfect combination. And it just stuck with me. It's great.
And then Ghostbusters 2 came out in 1989.
Right.
I was 5 years old. I think we were all around the ages of from between 3 and 5 years old.
Right.
So that was, and I remember
I think
my father took me to see Ghostbusters 2, and I remember that.
Yeah, I was only a year because I was only like a year and a half old when the second movie came out, so I missed it in theaters. Today it is the only Ghostbusters movie that I have not seen in theaters, and if I have an opportunity to see it in theaters, I will drop everything and go.
Yeah.
Sure. But no, my earliest memory of watching the second movie was the network television premiere on ABC back in 1994.
Okay, that's cool.
When I was like, I think I was like 6. Yeah, I was 6 years old at the time.
Okay. And Nick, what were your did you view the films fairly recently, or when did you first see them?
Yeah, my parents didn't really show me a lot of movies. I really just I think I watched the original Ghostbusters probably 6 or 7 years ago. I think it was on Netflix, and I watched it on a lark. I was just like, I'm gonna watch this movie. I think I watched Ghostbusters 2 not soon after that.
Okay.
And I did remember enjoying both of the films and thinking they were good. But yeah, I came to them at a much older age, so there really wasn't a ton of, that wonderment that came with, Forrest and Matt and your experiences with it, where you're watching it at 5, 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
I probably watched it when I was like 24, 25. So it wasn't the same experience.
Well, better late than never. So that's great.
Yes.
That's good. All right, guys. So let's fast forward 32 years, and we've got Ghostbusters Afterlife now in theaters. And like I said before, this basically continues the storyline of the first two films. It is directed by the original director, Ivan Reitman's son, Jason Reitman, who actually has a small role in Ghostbusters 2 as a bratty kid. But he is basically taking the reins and basically continuing what his father started, which is awesome. And he's given us a really fun ride here. This movie is just a joy. It basically focuses on Egon Spengler's, and I should just say, this is going to be a spoiler heavy show. So if you want to reveal anything about the movie, feel free. Okay. Because this is a spoiler heavy show, guys. So if you're watching now and you haven't seen the movie, stop watching, because we're going to get to it.
Bruce Willis is a ghost.
All along. There you go.
Or if you're me, remember folks, spoilers do not matter. You should still go see the movie for yourself.
Yes. And this movie definitely has a lot of moments that are like very, that you want to spoil with your friends, with people, with fans of the franchise, especially the ending. But we'll get into that a little later. But this film, it has a very good cast. We've got Carrie Coon, Finn Wolfhard, McKenna Grace, who basically she's the lead actress here. And I think she was only about 12 or 13 when she filmed it. And she's phenomenal. She plays Egon Spengler's granddaughter here, and it's just brilliant that she continues his legacy.
The resemblance in Egon is you should just seen it right away.
Right.
Like this is how, and the personalities from all four that did it. It just you can just see it right away. Like these are the personalities of the new generation of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
The Gen Z Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I like it.
Zoomers.
And Finn Wolfhard, who I think he was kind of underused here. I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like on one hand they got him because he'd already become a name between Stranger Things and It.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, what's one more movie with Finn Wolfhard chasing chasing supernatural beings?
Kind of typecast.
Typecast, but at the same time, it's like they kind of didn't, because on Stranger Things, he's the lead,
right.
Whereas here they kind of put him in the
back seat a little bit,
yeah.
even though he was in the front
even though he was in the driver's seat,
right. He was in the driver's seat. I would have loved to ask him how cool is it to drive the Ecto 1,
yeah.
But not only this,
but then again, I'm sure they mostly used a stunt driver.
Oh yeah. I don't think that was Finn.
But let's put it this way: Finn Wolfhard was so used to getting in the flight suit, because not only did he get in the flight suit for Ghostbusters, he got into the flight suit for Stranger Things.
I think that's probably what got him the part, if I'm not mistaken. I think, but it worked for him. And also, Logan Kim as Podcast, the quirky kind of, I guess he's sort of like the Ray Stantz of this group.
Oh yes,
absolutely. I mean, I think the end of the movie solidified that.
Yeah, for sure. And the Ecto goggles with have a Polaroid function that was
which wasn't there to begin with, but it was cool.
It looked good. It looked good. And of course, Paul Rudd as the kind of casual, very cool teacher who's teaching them in summer school, who basically gets involved in the ghost busting in a way.
Man, I was just say right now, I wish I had a teacher like him when I was a kid. Like,
oh yes, I would love that.
Like watching Child's Play and Cujo on VHS in class. Like, where was that teacher when I was growing up?
I know, that would have been fun. But Nick, what did you think of the casting?
Well, it felt to me like a kind of a glimpse into what growing up as Egon was probably like through his granddaughter. Egon was very driven. He was very straightforward. He really wasn't one for overt humor or cracking jokes to people. And I kind of felt like they did a really nice job. Like it felt like a tribute to Egon in a lot of different ways. And I felt like the way that they wrote McKenna Grace's character, I felt like was like the biggest one, because it was like, that kid is in every school, in every state, in every county. There's a kid like that who's just super awkward, but is a really sweet, good person, just wants to do the right thing, they just care about one thing. And that was kind of the through line to me with Egon, where Egon was so driven in his mission to save the earth that he sacrificed all of these other things in his life to achieve that goal. And you could tell that McKenna Grace's character, now on a much smaller scale, was willing to, like, she didn't care if she didn't have a lot of friends. She didn't care if she wasn't socially accepted. Like, she was into what she was into. And you're the weird one for not caring the way I do. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was phenomenal. I loved Paul Rudd in it, although I hate the character trope of the doesn't give a shit teacher, who's just like, oh, well, you're gonna watch these movies every day in summer school because I don't want to teach. Like, it's summer school. Like, you should be learning in summer school because you didn't try during the school year. It shouldn't be that way. But that's my own opinion on just how summer school should work. I felt Carrie Coon did a phenomenal job playing the bitter daughter who just didn't want to understand where her father was coming from. I think Paul Rudd did a great job kind of as the guy who, like, his character was very perceptive. And I felt like that was a nice little change. Like, usually in that role, he's so smitten with the female character that he's oblivious, but he really felt like he was very perceptive in how Carrie Coon's character felt about everything. And he kind of understood, like, she needs to be supported as a parent. She needs to, like, somebody to tell her that she's got good kids. I thought Finn Wolfhard's character was more the Ray Stantz than anybody else. I thought that McKenna Grace was obviously Egon. I felt like Finn was Stantz because I felt like Stantz and Egon were kind of like, Egon like Stan's like tried to keep up with Egon in some regards, and I feel like that's what he tried to do. That's what Finn Wolfhard's character tried to do. Like he just needed to buy in. Like once he bought in, he was like, okay, what do we do? And I felt like podcast, like now that you're saying podcast was probably Stan's, I get that, but I felt like podcast was more Venkman because he had a lot of quips. He had a lot of like quick, witty shots that he threw out that you really enjoyed. And then I felt like the girl was Zedmore.
Yeah.
Because she was kind of like skeptical, but then like, again, once she saw that it was for real, she was like, all right, what do I do?
Right. And
How
also,
do I help?
Also, she was the latest addition in the movie.
Right. Exactly. And I think they hit it out of the park with the casting. I think everybody had something, and I think everybody kind of knew what they were going to be going into it. Like it didn't feel like anybody was misused or underused or overused. So I think the casting was excellent.
There is one thing I will say. I think it's kind of a little bit of a waste to have it. J.K. Simmons as Ivo Shandor.
I would have liked to have seen him. I honestly would have liked to have seen more Shandor.
Yeah.
I would have liked to seen how it is like indifferently if they woken him up and done like a really good seance or ceremony to bring back Gozer in that kind of way.
I mean, he just has this one little moment. He has a very tiny monologue, and then he gets ripped apart. That's it. I mean, there's so much there in terms of storylines. You know, they could have explored his history.
The video games and the comic books explored the history of Shandor, but I would have liked to have seen like a lot, Shandor, more of Shandor, a live action Shandor, like in the flesh.
Yeah,
I
think that's why the movie got criticized, because I don't think this movie did well with critics.
No.
And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why, like there's these things that are kind of Easter eggs and nostalgia, like J.K. Simmons' character, who I just looked at as like, oh, J.K. Simmons wanted to be in the film. They found him a bit part. Great. J.K. Simmons. Hooray.
I actually had it because going into this, like I did not, like the first time I saw it, I did not recognize him or Olivia Wilde as Gozer. I had to do, like the second time I saw, like I had to do a double take.
I kind of was like, hey, that's Olivia Wilde, but they made her like all that makeup and the visual effects. But yeah, she looked good though.
Yeah.
But I want to see more of Shandor. I think like a spin-off series would be great, like a prequel series, like but Sony doesn't have a streaming service, I don't think.
No,
they do. Crackle.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, it's like it's free with ads.
Okay, so they could probably do a Ghostbusters series of some sort on Crackle. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But that would be cool.
But the thing is, who uses Crackle?
Yeah, I don't really. I have it, but I don't think I've ever used it though. You?
I mean, I use it early on just to watch the real Ghostbusters before they re-released it on DVD.
Okay.
But they also have Cleaning Up the Town, that documentary of Ghostbusters.
Right. That's a good one. And Ghost Heads, very good. Now, in terms of casting, we have to talk about the original cast.
Oh yes.
And they make great appearances in this one 32 years after the second movie, which was amazing. And yeah, what was it like for you guys to see the original cast suited up with proton packs busting Gozer again? In the months leading up to the movie, I had read about like Bill Murray, reading something about Bill Murray's experience putting on the suit and the equipment again and how heavy it was. But so I was I was expecting it, but when they did, and so when all three of them showed up, it
helped. It helped with like the audience I was watching it with the first time. We all cheered when they came on screen.
Especially for me, because I did go to the premiere, which is amazing. It was the whole auditorium was filled with ghost heads, and we were just cheering throughout the whole thing, and it was a really fun time, and I'll never forget that experience. Matt, what was it like for you seeing the three original guys suited up again?
It was amazing just to see them, including Peter going back, and I just love how the first line that comes, "Hey, flat top." It's dust. I was like, oh my god.
Did you
Yes,
miss-
I did.
or when Gozer asked that if they're asked Ray if he's a god, and Peter and Vincent are like, come on, Ray, we've been through this before.
he stops in his tracks. What do I say? Oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, Nick, I'm sure it's a little bit different for you seeing the guys dressed up again and busting ghosts.
I was very excited for it. I wish that they had done a little bit more exposition on what brought them together. Because to me, there's something there. There's something on Ray's end of the phone when Bokeem Woodbine's character hangs up the phone. Yeah. You couldn't have put in like a 5-minute scene of Ray just like hanging up and then dialing up Venkman and then just going, it stands. We got to talk. And then boom. And then you just move on, you know? And then like you just do another cutaway of just like a phone ringing and it's like the silhouette of Zedmore. And he picks up the phone and he goes, hey. Oh, hey, Pete.
Yeah.
What's up?
I'll give you that. It was a little abrupt.
You know, it did. Like I didn't, especially because like Venkman was at a SUNY school in New York.
SUNY Cortland.
Yeah, they were all in New York State.
Yeah.
And they have to go to Oklahoma. There's gotta be something.
Right, like a plane ride.
Yeah.
I
they dusted off the Ecto 2 and took that there.
Well, remember how this is. I can obviously think how.
But if they fly, how do they check the proton packs?
Oh man!
Like, is that a carry-on?
Well, here's what it is.
Like, I would love to watch Stance explain to TSA how fragile the machinery is.
Yeah.
Well,
that won't fly with the TSA.
Read for what it is, Stan said, that Zedmore made a fortune, so it could possibly think
private flight,
private jet.
Yeah, that was once they explained Zedmore's thing. I was like, oh, okay, Zedmore used a private plane to get them down there, and that's how it happened. But to me, it really isn't that hard to write like a couple 5-minute scenes of just them calling each other or something. And like, okay, so you saw Ray Stance, right? Then you could do Zedmore after him. And then the last one is just a phone being picked up and you just hear Murray grunt.
Right.
like Bill Murray doesn't even have to say anything.
Right.
He just pick up the phone and go, eh. And then everyone will be like, oh, it's Venkman.
That's not even a 5-minute thing. That could be like a minute and a half, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was the one thing that I felt like they could have done a better job.
Picked up the phone. Because it also, we know that Peter
and Dana they probably
I'm assuming that was their apartment in the end.
Yes.
Credits. I would have liked to have seen more Sigourney Weaver in that.
Not just a mid-credit cameo.
Yeah, she deserved more than that. And also, who wasn't in the movie as a cameo would have been amazing.
Louis Tully.
Thank you. Rick Moranis would have been fantastic.
You might as well should have used the baby who played Oscar too.
Although one of them died a few years ago.
Yeah, they were twins. One of them committed suicide actually. So
I thought that Rick Moranis was going to be Zedmore's partner.
Yeah, in the car, right? Driving. Yeah. That would.
I thought he was going to step out of the Ecto and like do that stupid accent he did in the other two films.
Yeah.
And then you cut to black.
That would have been amazing, but
it would have been.
Yeah, maybe in the sequel, if there is one, I hope.
I mean, Randy, you, me, Matt, Forrest, we're just gonna have to write our own Ghostbusters movie.
We would. I like that idea.
I actually have an idea. And
call it Ghostbusters More Fan Service.
Yeah. What's your idea for a Ghostbusters movie, Matt?
Ghostbusters Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's like CSI Miami, but with Ghostbusters.
Like CSI Miami, but we know that how it is that what Dr. Venkman said in the original Ghostbusters is that the franchise rights would bring us millions.
Yeah.
So what's time? They've always been based out in New York, and we've seen that it's been going in with this little thing in Oklahoma. Why not do Ghostbusters Los Angeles? I was thinking like Ghostbusters International.
Yeah, I was about to
say. But the thing is that they had Men in Black International. So I wouldn't even think of that because both Men in Black,
Sony,
Right.
Sony owns
And that movie did not do well. Men in Black International.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I don't know.
or maybe in a callback, or maybe in a callback to Harold Ramis' hometown. Put him in Chicago. Actually,
Ghostbusters Chicago.
Yeah. It's kind of too close. It's very similar to New York. I don't know if it'll be a good transition. That's why I like this movie a lot, because it's a new
out of the city, completely out of the city environment.
Yeah, it was refreshing. It was a change of pace,
Yeah.
which was nice. But yeah, the film is great. It's a lot of fun. I think my favorite action sequence is probably the Ecto-1 chasing Muncher.
Yes.
Throughout Main Street.
Absolutely.
Seeing that on the big screen with a good sound system, it was fantastic, and it never gets old. But Matt, what do you think of the Ecto-1 now with the gunner seat?
I think it was amazing. I mean, they have done some great things to the Ecto-1, and I love the Ecto-1. It's my favorite movie car of all time.
Yeah.
I have so many variants of the collection of the Ecto-1. From the Ecto-1, I have the new Plasma series. I have the Kenner Classic.
Nice.
I have the Lego Ecto-1 and the Hot Wheels Ecto-1.
I have the Lego Ecto-1 as well.
I've got the Playmobil one. It's in my den here. I did have the Kenner version as a kid. Fantastic toy. It had a little gunner seat on the top, which was great. So they kind of like modified that into this movie.
It's actually something that's with across all Ghostbusters media. It's like the Ecto-1 has all these gadgets on the roof, but you rarely ever see them use it. You rarely ever see using any of the equipment in the Ecto-1. So it was nice to finally see them. See it. Do something other than charge through New York traffic.
I love the remote control ghost trap car.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that was cool.
What was it? That was a Ricochet, right? From the 90s. Good touch. Very creative.
And there's one question I noticed. It's like, why didn't they have like the version of the Ecto-1A with the Ghostbusters 2 logo? I'm going to answer that right now. The thing it comes with all types of things with business is that all the times with business, after a while, they sort of rebrand, change their logo, or try to fit it new.
That's something because in the video game, which is set 2 years after Ghostbusters 2, you see them reverting back to the original logo in Ecto-1.
Oh, interesting. So
same with the comic books.
So they have at least two different cars, it seems. The 1 and the 1A. But I love the 1A's design with the caution tape and the extra added gadgets on top of the roof.
Right.
It just looks cooler, in my opinion. I wish they would have used that here. It would have like kind of tied.
Or maybe do like an amalgamation of both Ecto-1 and Ecto-1A.
That's a good idea.
Which like which they did with the Extreme Ghostbusters.
Okay.
Was that it was the Ecto-1, but in the first 2 episodes, Egon modifies it, so it's an amalgamation.
Okay.
Of the Ecto-1 and the Ecto-1A.
And Forrest, you and I were connoisseurs of the original Kenner line.
Actually, I was apart from the Ecto-1, I didn't really have a lot of the Kenner toys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like because the toy line by the time I was old enough to play with action figures, real Ghostbusters was coming to an end. So I didn't really. So I missed out.
Oh, okay. Well, for me,
like as far as Ghostbusters merch, I had the Proton Pack.
Okay.
Both real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters, but I mainly had the comic books and the video games.
Okay. Well, for me, I'll be honest with you, my favorite toy ever as a kid, and I actually still have it. It's not complete. The Firehouse playset. Which whoever's watching right now, that was the best toy ever. If you had that as a kid, if you have it now and you want to give it to your son or your daughter, it's a fantastic toy. It just has a lot of play value in it. And if you could find one mint in the box with the actual ectoplasm,
they can afford it.
I think they're like $500. So good luck.
If Hasbro decides to bring it back as their Kenner Classic,
they probably will.
That would be. Well,
it's a shut up and take my money moment.
Well, I mean, if they're doing the HasLab Proton Pack,
that's a shut up and take your money moment there. To some limit.
I know this stuff can get pretty expensive. This whole toy collecting, prop collecting. But we love it. We're passionate about it, so it's awesome. So guys, I just want to quickly mention the music in the movie, because I'm a big film score buff, as far as you two.
Yes. Actually, I was just listening to both actually, because I have a Ghostbusters playlist on my phone,
Okay.
and I just hit shuffle, and it was like going back and forth between Elmer Bernstein and Randy Edelman.
Perfect. And yeah, so those are the two original scores, and this score done by Rob Simonson, I love it, because he does a lot of nods to Elmer Bernstein's theme, that eerie kind of piano and that electronic theme. It's just a great creepy score that really complements the film well. And I was blown away. This is one of my favorite scores in recent years. It was just because it was just very traditional and very effective. Nick, did you remember the score? Were you a fan of this music?
Yeah, I mean, I think the music fit the film perfectly. I think it was done well. I liked the musical interludes during scenes. I feel like in films they don't always do that, where the music will kind of be a through line for every scene, like connect them. I feel like they do that a lot more in television shows than they do it in movies. At least in the way that I'm trying to convey, which I don't think I'm doing a very good job as, but
No.
Like it felt like they used the music to kind of play up the moments. Like when McKenna and Podcast are trying out the proton pack. Like the music they were playing during that scene, to me, was like it was perfect. It had a little bit of suspense. It had some excitement to it. It was funny at certain points. I think there was the music that they used in the scene when the proton pack got confiscated by the police. I felt like they did a good job there. But yeah, I think it was a very well put together film score, and I think they did a really good job kind of matching it up to what kind of film they were trying to make. Like it had that 80s feel to it.
Yeah. And yeah, so Rob Simonson, he reused the original theme, like I said, and it just worked really well. And he had like different variations of it, and just the image of the PKE meter and the ghost trap coupled with those cues, it was perfect in my opinion. Matt, were you a fan of the score?
Oh, I was a fan of the score. It felt like the original to me in the ways that they used it. It was perfect for it. It was like you were watching the original 1984 movie in theaters all over again.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really happy that we finally got this movie after a year.
32 years.
32 years.
Well, no, I mean,
it was supposed to come out a year. It was supposed to come out last summer.
Right. I meant with the pandemic, like we had to wait extra long for this, and I think it was well worth the wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's one of those types of movies that you're just excited for.
It was well worth the wait. The anticipation was great. And again, I will say this for all Ghostbusters fans, it comes out of the line, in Reitman we trust.
Absolutely. And let's get to the most heartbreaking, the most beautiful scene in movies that I've seen lately. We've got the image of Harold Ramis helping out his granddaughter Phoebe bust Gozer. You see his hand, his ghostly hand, just like support the proton pack, and you got the music. It's very tender. Again, the music coupled with the images, it was just a perfect moment.
And then you see right up to it, and the four
are
pretty much reunited.
Yeah, I mean, you see the four guys again with proton packs, and they're
one is now a ghost.
But even though he's passed on, he's still there. Like he's like in our hearts, and it's a beautiful moment. And I was crying. I don't really cry. I never cry. So when I saw that scene,
I would say I
just teary.
I got a little misty eye.
Yeah.
It was
beautiful.
Not to mention for how it is. I know the likeness was put in by CGI.
Right. They did a great job.
The person who filled in that spot to be Egon Spengler was no one other than Ivan Reitman.
I heard that.
Really? That okay? So that one I didn't know. That's a new.
Yes, there are pictures online showing that they put him in the flight suit.
Now I didn't read the whole story, but that was is that the big? That's at the end.
That was the
final
busting credit. That was the busting scene of busting.
Oh, that's
Gozer.
interesting. Good to know. Thank you, Ivan. That was great. Beautiful.
And it was beautiful. I mean, and still, I mean, it was just amazing. And you can see for all the things that Jason Reitman's favorite Ghostbuster was Egon. He wanted to do a story about Egon. He said it. And putting to the person who said that they were full of crap and they should go out of business. And we see him 32 years after this, and he made a Ghostbusters film.
Right. Actually, I remember years ago before the 2016 movie. I remember reading an interview with Jason Reitman. And this is this was still a point in his career where he was primarily doing like quirky dramedies, like Juno and Young Adult. And he said that if he had directed a Ghostbusters movie, that it would probably be more about, they would be talking about catching ghosts than actually doing ghostbusting.
And I'm surprised at how well he did action in this, like
action and special effects.
He does a very character driven dramedies, and then he does this basically a full blown dramedy, but with
blockbuster,
but with action. And he did a great job. Like again, the Ecto One chase through Main Street, fantastic action sequence, and he did a great job with that. So yeah. So Matt, you mentioned, or you both mentioned, I think, the female version. I just want to
2016 movie.
Yeah, I just want to talk about that for just a few seconds, maybe a minute.
Honestly, I will say right now, I feel like a lot of the negative reviews seem to have an axe to grind with Ghostbusters fans over the 2016 movie.
Let's put it this way: Ghostbusters, the 2016 movie, directed by Paul Feig. Was it the greatest? No. What was it? Was it what the Ghostbusters fans really wanted? I mean, no, but it got us a Ghostbusters film. And something I will tell you this: it regenerated the franchise.
Yeah, that's the only good thing.
That's what. And I feel like that's what's the point that Sony was looking as, like, oh my God, there's so many out here. Like we have something again. We should look back into this.
I mean, I was super excited for it, and I was totally let down. Even though I went to the premiere in LA, but still, the experience of that was great. The movie, though, it was not great.
I remember because I remember like them announcing the cast, and at that point I really knew Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy, who I was like, I'm a fan of them. Didn't really know Leslie Jones or Kate McKinnon much because I don't watch their. I mean, I went through a period where I wasn't really watching Saturday Night Live that much, so I wasn't really familiar with them. But I saw the trailer, wasn't impressed. But then I went and saw them. But then I did catch the movie. I did see the movie, and it was I did not hate it. Yeah. But I didn't love it either. It was okay. I just thought it was okay. And but I just feel like Paul Feig's directing style just didn't mesh with
the franchise.
Yeah.
And I was, like I said, very excited about it and kind of let down.
Oh, I will say though, I walked away. I did walk away impressed with Kate McKinnon and Leslie Jones. Melissa McCarthy, I just felt like she was just kind of there,
phoning it in. Yeah.
They didn't really have. I feel like they didn't really give her much to do.
For me, the only really good thing about that movie was rejuvenating the franchise and then bringing a new audience, younger viewers into the Ghostbusters world, which was fantastic. But then when this was announced,
actually, I will also, if you have a chance to read the IDW comic books, we were introduced to the Ghostbusters.
It actually is a good comic.
Yeah, where we have the 2016 Ghostbusters crossing over with both the original team and the real Ghostbusters.
See, that would make for a great animated series or an animated film, because I love the animations, the style of the artwork in those comics. It look great on screen. But once that movie kind of bombed in my heart, I was kind of nervous about the next movie that they were coming out with, Afterlife. So I was like excited, but at the same time, optimistically nervous that it was going to be the same thing as the 2016 movie. But thank God it was not like that. And we got a great quality film.
What we got is what Ivan Reitman and answered to the fans.
Yeah.
He gave a movie to the fans.
Also, I kind of feel like that much like James Bond and Halloween, Ghostbusters works best when it's a family affair.
Yeah, it's, I could see that. Yeah, in Reitman we trust.
Right, and much like James Bond has the Broccoli family helmet, running the ship, or Halloween has the Akkad family.
Exactly. That's a good point. Nick, what did you think, real quick, of the 2016 Ghostbusters?
Well, first, just to comment on what Forrest said about some of the critics having an axe to grind about the 2016 version. I looked into that very intensely because there are people close to me that were insisting the reason it was getting poor reviews was because of that. And I really didn't see any reputable reviews that implied that or pushed that narrative. I'm not saying that what you saw, Forrest, was wrong. You obviously read reviews, and I didn't read them intensely, but I did do my own research because I just refuse to believe that there would still be that much of an agenda against that film 5 years afterward. The 2016 version just tried way too hard to be funny. It tried too hard to make jokes. It tried too hard to have that like gory, gross bridesmaids humor that Paul Feig is known for at this point. I don't think arbitrarily the film is bad. I just think it tried way too hard. And it was just, that kid that you have in high school that just tries very hard for people to like him, and it has the opposite effect. Everyone's annoyed by them because they're trying too hard. Yeah. I don't, like I said before, like I think that the Ghostbusters franchise is really, and again, I don't mean this as a pejorative, it's really sort of propped up by the fandom. Like I watched the first Ghostbusters and I thought to myself, okay, that was a good film. I enjoyed that. And then when I heard there was a sequel, I was like, well, why? They did the thing. They busted the ghosts. Like, it didn't really feel like the first film left off as if there were going to be any more massive threats to humanity. And then I watched the second one. I was like, that was good too. I don't need a third one. I'm okay. I don't. And again, I'm not trying to, put down the franchise or anything like that. Please don't interpret what I'm saying as that. I'm just saying that I think the films by themselves are good movies, but I think the fans, and again, I mean this positively, the passion and the just the unmitigated passion and love of this franchise from the fans' perspective, it's really what's given it this life that it's had since the original film came out. I mean, sitting here and listening to the three of you wax poetic about it is so cool and inspiring to me because I'm like you said, Randy, I'm coming in from a different level because I watched these movies when I was in like my mid-20s. You guys saw them when you were like 4 and 5 years old, and it just has the difference in effect and opinion is so profound and it's really cool. But again, I just feel like that if the fans weren't as passionate as they are, you don't have a 2016 reboot with all women, and you don't have Ghostbusters Afterlife to kind of right the ship in some regards. So again, I just feel like that if you're going to continue to make these films, you have to do what the fans want to see and also try to sprinkle in your own story and sprinkle in your own stuff. But you really have to, because like every fan that I've spoken to absolutely adores this movie. I don't think I've seen a single positive review about it. I think every film critic looks at this film and says, oh, they did too much fan service. Oh, they did too much stuff that the fans wanted to see. They're looking at it as like a piece of art that you should be independent of all that stuff when you're making art. And it's like, well, this film really doesn't exist without the fans. So you kind of have to do what the fans want because they're the reason you still have this franchise. They're the reason you're making all this money.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about the 2016 version. I don't think anybody, I'm sure there's Ghostbusters fans out there that are sexist morons and just were like, I don't want to see women Ghostbusters. None of them are on this panel and none of them are involved in this conversation. And if there's anybody watching this that feels that way, you're a dumbass and you probably live in your mother's basement. But again, a film can be bad, and you can also have an opinion that's independent of being a misogynist.
Right.
So again, the 2016 version tried way too hard. The Ghostbusters franchise is still here because of the fans, and you have to cater to them if you want these films to be good, and you want the idea, you want to have a franchise, because Hollywood has no new ideas, right? Nothing in Hollywood is new and original, right? So if you want to have a franchise, well, from the perspective of films that are making money, it's nothing's new. They're just adapting stuff.
It's true.
If you want to continue to make money, you want this gravy train to keep rolling, you got to cater to the fans. You got to give what the fans want. Yeah. And I really don't think the overwhelming opinion of Ghostbusters fans is that they're sexist. I think they would be fine with an all-female team if the film was good. And I think the problem was the film wasn't good.
Now, for me, it's tough, especially with Ghostbusters movies, because I am a Ghostbuster, but I'm also a critic too. So I have to really, separate my viewpoint and my opinions on the matter. Obviously, I'm going to love this movie no matter what, because it's been ingrained in me since childhood. But at the same time, I'm looking at Afterlife, and it actually, from a non-Ghostbuster perspective, it's a decent movie. It's a fun ride. And I'm invested in the characters. I think Jason Reitman did a fine job directing. I think the visual effects are pretty good. It's just a quality science fiction action.
And I think it probably in Reitman's case, it helped that he cut his teeth with character driven dramedies before he did this movie.
Yeah.
So,
but it kind of seems like he kind of jumped into this world of action, because I don't think I've ever seen him do action before.
I think this is his first blockbuster popcorn movie,
and he did a decent job. I'm gonna say, not even decent, a solid job. And he fist bumped all the audience members in the theater at the premiere, and he was talking about how he, because I think he's only in his early 40s himself, and he said he played with the toys too, so he's one of us, So it was just really cool.
He grew up with his father. He was on the sets of all his father's movies that he'd done.
Right.
So he was born into this.
Yeah.
He knew he was groomed. Jason Reitman was groomed into this. And even for what it is, like to say, Ivan Reitman said, that Jason may not want to do another Ghostbusters film after this. And he said, that's okay.
Yeah.
But Ivan Reitman also says he wants to see more ideas for another Ghostbusters film. He is the owner of Ghost Corps, which is the production company subsidiary under Sony.
Right.
So with that, there's gonna be more Ghostbusters stories, and he wants to hear it. It may be beyond the original four. That's okay. I mean, that's one thing, is that it was different. It was beyond with the original four. Because that's what with this whole fandom is, that they wanted to have this sort of passing of the torch moment.
Right.
We didn't really get that in Ghostbusters Afterlife. We got something that is going to be leading towards that. I think there's something that's going to be leading towards that.
Kind of like a hint at things to come.
If you looked at in the last, in the post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
I don't go into this.
I think this was a passing of the torch. I don't think that you can continue to have Aykroyd, Murray, and
especially Murray,
Ernie Hudson. I don't think you can continue to have them kind of prop you up, because you need to, for the franchise, if we really want the franchise to evolve and move forward, you need to stop. Like, this was a good nostalgia trip, and it was a really good tribute to the concept of Ghostbusters. But if you really want it to evolve, I'm sorry, you have to move away from the original four guys. You have to move forward. They can't be involved in every single film. Like you can't just have every few movies, if one of them passes away, you can't just have a film be a tribute to them or something like that. You need to, at some point, you have to come up with your own original idea, which to me is what really bothered me about all the backlash of the 2016 version. That was the biggest gripe that I had. It was like, they're doing something different. Like, let them do the different thing. And then I watched it and I was like, I understand why people don't like it. But again, you need to do different things at some point. You need to try different things. I have this argument with one of my friends all the time because he's such a comic purist. And I'm like, it's fantasy land. It's not real.
Yeah.
Like that you can do whatever you want because these characters are not real people. Like you can't make a film about JFK and say, okay, he was black and he could fly. You can't do that. You can do that with Ghostbusters. You can have a new team come in. You can have a rival team of Ghostbusters come in. You could literally make a film where the female Ghostbusters fight the young Ghostbusters and the old Ghostbusters are in the middle and they're like, what do we do?
Multiverse.
Like, exactly. You can do all of these different things but you can't do it until you decide we need to move forward and we need to stop being so completely beholden to the past. And I think that that's the key for this franchise to move forward is you had the nostalgia trip with the original three. Like if you want to have them in like little bit parts or have them like do like don't have them suit up again. Like they don't need to suit up again. You know, they look like, I thought Bill Murray looked horrible.
I mean,
Dan Aykroyd really hasn't aged that significantly, I don't think. Like I think he still looks basically like Dan Aykroyd.
Right.
And Ernie Hudson doesn't look that much older.
And he's the oldest. And he was the oldest of them.
That's funny. I think Hudson looked the best. Murray and Aykroyd were they looked a little tired.
But then again, watch the 80. If you go back and watch the original, Murray, even back then, Murray, who was my age at the time it was made, looked old.
Yeah. Well,
Murray has always had that look about him, but I just thought he looked especially old in the film. I don't know if it was just the lighting or what they were trying to do.
He was like late 60s and he looked really worn down.
He did. And I think Dan Aykroyd still looks pretty good. I mean, he's a little heavier, but I think for the most part, he looks okay.
He looked older for his age.
He did.
Yeah, he has. That's very true. True.
Go back to Rushmore from 1998. He was only in his 40s there.
Yeah, he already looked old then.
Yeah, but I digress. Sorry.
But from what I can see is that, right, they don't need to. But here's my idea for where I thought things were coming from. In that post-credit scene, you see Janine and Winston talking. Yeah. Winston says he'll always be a Ghostbuster and just going through the things, and you see how the containment unit could break. So here's my thing. Winston would probably continue and bring either that team back to be those Ghostbusters.
The Somerville kids.
Okay. His young apprentices.
Yeah.
Or a new team to start a franchise over. I see. And we see him being overseen with his company. We see Winston now as this big financial mogul.
Kind of the CEO or the Nick Fury of Ghostbusters.
That would be cool.
That's Ernie Hudson. That's Winston.
I would Ghostbusters: The Next Generation or Ghostbusters 2.0, whatever you want to call it.
Or because like Peter hinted at in the original, becoming like a full-fledged franchise. That's kind of what I want to see. Where I want to see the series going forward is like I want to see the Ghostbusters expand.
Yep. Yeah, I would love to see that.
I mean, it was a good thing that we had another thing at Gozer. Do we need another coming of Gozer moment?
Probably
yes.
Not. So I would say going forward, I would say, for this movie, that's fine, but I think going forward, they need to move on from Gozer.
So I'm curious. So they kept the containment unit active and online for 32 years, but who's been guarding it? Was Winston the whole time?
I
or-
mean, well, it's weird because I remember Ray mentioning that that the firehouse had become a Starbucks.
Right, and it was clearly not.
No, it was pretty much still intact.
Maybe he
It
meant next
may
door.
have been a Starbucks,
Mhm.
but he might have rented it out that building because maybe Winston had the ownership rights of the fire.
That was kind of a
I mean, he was already paying rent on Winston's bookstore.
A cult,
so.
yeah.
Raise a cult.
Raise a
Maybe
cult.
raise a cult.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That containment unit, it's going to open up again, and we're going to get another bevy of ghosts attacking Manhattan.
I mean, yeah. I mean, actually, Extreme Ghostbusters, when that show starts, the Ghostbusters had been out of business for several years.
Okay.
Again, but Egon was still living in the firehouse and watching over the containment unit.
You know, I've never seen Extreme. Does it really follow the real Ghostbusters in a good way?
It follows Egon as a mentor.
Yeah,
Okay.
he mentors
So
a new team of younger Ghostbusters.
And then
So
we get Stantz and Venkman coming in too.
in that series, Stantz, Venkman, and Zedmore don't come in until the last two episodes.
Okay, I would see it just for that.
But that's what I would say would be going on. Winston would be that mentor support role.
Nice. And speaking of Winston, Matt, I think you have some items here, some goodies.
I do. Well, first, Randy, I'm going to show something that this is one of your prized
This is one of
possessions.
mine. This was the first time I ever met Ernie Hudson at New York Comic Con. I think it was like 2010. And very cool guy, very down to earth. And I was shaking. Yeah, I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. And just a very cool guy, and I'll never forget that. And actually, a few years after that, when I met Matt, we met Ernie Hudson again. That was my second time. And here's a photo.
Here's a photo of us all in there's a few of us, but I hold this one dearly to my heart with my good friends here. Also, I have with my side my father, who's in this, because he took me to see Ghostbusters years ago, Ghostbusters 2 at least.
Oh,
Just
and speaking of
having that
Ghostbusters 2,
moment.
we both had the Ecto 1A as the background, which was awesome. Oh, that's a good one you got there.
But this one is also one thing. When I had met Ernie, I had him sign one of my Winston action figures, but I also wanted to get a picture, just like a glossy picture signed by him, but also a line that holds dearly to my heart. And if you want to know what it says, one of the best advice ever, which it says, Matthew, if someone asks if you're a god, you say
Yes.
What'd you do, Ray? And
I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you guys, but years ago when I was like fresh out of school, like post grad, I worked as an extra and a set decorator on a Ghostbusters fan film.
Oh, that's awesome.
Called Ghostbusters SLC. I was living in Utah at the time.
Oh, you never told us this.
No, I didn't.
I don't think so. No, I would have remembered a fan film of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, because actually it was supposed to be a fan web series.
Okay.
They only did one episode, and then I worked on the second episode, but it was never completed.
Oh, is it? Can you? Oh, it's never. So,
But you can find the first episode on.
Oh, there's still footage.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, you can still watch the first and only episode online. It's Ghostbusters SLC.
Okay.
It's supposed to be about the Utah chapter of the Ghostbusters.
Nice. All right, gonna look for that. Cool. So Nick, any closing thoughts on Afterlife, Ghostbusters Afterlife?
I think it was a very good film. I think they really leaned into the fan service, which I think is something that really matters in the Ghostbusters fandom, and if you want the film to be successful. But again, at some point they've got to strike out and do their own thing. It's very similar to the Star Wars debate about whether Last Jedi was good or not. I liked it because they were doing something different and they weren't just rehashing the trilogy. And then there's people out there who don't understand logic and don't like it. So you need to they need to be able to do their own thing at some point, but it was a good film. It was a very fitting tribute to Egon. I think that the really underrated part to me was how driven Egon was and how he was willing to, and he did, not that he was willing, he did compromise all of these relationships that mattered so much to him because he was so incredibly strong in his belief and so driven in his belief that this was going to happen and we need to do something. And if nobody believes me, fine, but I'm going to go and do it. And that to me is so poignant because I think in today's day and age, we rely so much on the thoughts and opinions of others for our own motivation to do things. And here's a guy that literally just up and went to Oklahoma because he believed that this was going to happen and nobody supported him or believed him, and that didn't matter. He was just like, screw it, I'm doing it anyway, and you guys can come or not. If you don't come, you don't come.
And you know what? That
very good film.
That dedication and that conviction carries through to his granddaughter Phoebe in this movie, and I think she's a perfect hero in a way, and a role model to young girls. So that's another thing that I didn't even think about that until now, that she's just a great role model for young girls everywhere and for women, and very empowering. And she doesn't give a crap what other people think. She's gonna do her thing. She's gonna approach these issues with a scientific and analytical mind, and she's gonna triumph. And I think she was fantastic. All the props to McKenna Grace, fantastic actress. Forrest, closing thoughts for you.
Closing thoughts. Well, I just also wanted to point out I feel like there was one missed opportunity here, was when Paul Rudd was in Walmart making an ice cream run, and he sees Vince, and he runs into Vince Clortho. Yeah. I feel like instead of like chowing down on Purina, he should have been chowing down on Milk Bones.
That would have been appropriate. Definitely.
But I think this is a lot of fun. I think Reitman definitely balanced both the fan service and also building upon
that world, the pre-existing world.
The pre-existing world.
Yeah, for sure. Indeed. Well put again, sir. And Matt, closing thoughts for you.
There's one thing we haven't talked as well. First is that the Easter eggs, I feel like, there's some great Easter eggs, like the spores, molds, and funguses.
Yes,
because Egon collected spores, molds, and fungus.
And what was the candy bar in
the
Crunch? Thank you.
Crunch and the Twinkies in the glove compartment.
Yes.
Twinkies in the glove compartment as well.
Yeah.
It's like, if you watch between the first two both the first two movies, Egon's got a huge appetite, especially for junk food, Also, it's funny because in the first movie, Peter is like, actually, in both movies, Peter is always trying to seduce women, whereas it's pretty obvious that Egon was definitely the more of the ladies' man of the two.
Yeah, Janine had a really huge crush on him in the first movie.
Yeah, and then in the second movie, he talked, those science chicks, they dig his epididymis.
He just looks at him.
But for one thing is also with how they left for the character Egon, is that even though for what you said, Nick, no one believes me, I'm going to do it anyway. But he never forgot anything in the family. He was always checking in with his daughter the whole entire time, as you see with the scene with his daughter, and he sees all the pictures of her growing up. It still comes to it is that, we might burn some bridges, but screw it, I did it anyway, but I will never forget you.
True. And I just want to mention also Harold Ramis's real life daughter, Violet Ramis. She has a book out called Ghostbusters Daughter. And, it's just a great look at her life on set with Harold Ramis, and her life growing up with an actual Ghostbuster. So check out that book if you can. Oh, and Matt and I, we actually went to an event
where we had met her, and I have her signed books signed by it, and it was
it was cool.
It's even more now it's even more touching because Ghostbusters' daughter. I remember getting that book and everything. What she wrote, it was like she wrote in it to Matthew, "Happy Father's Day." That was the year that I became a father.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I hold that book a little bit close, and it's. And then you know what? I'm not, even though for what it is, I have met a few in the Ghostbusters realm. I mean, Violet Ramis, who is going to be anything close as I'm going to ever get to Harold Ramis.
Yeah.
That just seals the deal. I met Ernie. I also met Bill Murray as well for once. And he did say to me, the flowers are still standing.
Awesome. And I've interviewed two supporting actresses. Robin Shelby, it's very sweet. She played, she was actually the puppeteer / actress behind Slimer in Ghostbusters 2. Very nice person. And also Jennifer Runyon, who is in the first movie in one of the early scenes where she's basically doing
Venkman's guinea pig.
Yeah, thank you. She's doing the psychic tests, and basically Venkman is pining after her. She's also very nice.
Yeah, she was a regular on Charles in Charge after that movie.
Yeah, I think she had a few episodes on Charles in Charge.
She was part of the main cast.
Jennifer Runyon?
Yes.
She dated Scott Baio's Charles throughout the show. But very nice person. Also want to mention in 2019, I went to LA again for Ghostbusters Fan Fest, where I met William Atherton, and I saw Ernie Hudson again. Dan Aykroyd was there too, but it was basically what I experienced at the premiere a couple weeks ago. Basically, a huge community of Ghostbusters fans, where there's hundreds of us. We're all over the world, and to be in the same room as these people and cheering on and watching this new film for the first time, it was just a really incredible experience that I'll never forget it. I hope that magic continues throughout the rest of my life. I know you guys mostly through Ghostbusters. I think, pretty much.
We met at that 35th anniversary screening at Cult Cafe out on Long Island.
Yeah, that was 2019.
Yeah.
I also want to say for Nick, I know that you mentioned that they do have to move on from the original 4. Yes, but there's one thing in the movie that I don't think that they should ever move on from. They can never let go of the Ecto-1. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't really have an issue with them continuing to use the Ecto-1 or really any of the tools. I just think at the end of the day, the ones using the tools need to change at some point.
All right. Well, guys, we have a couple minutes. I just want to go around and do plugs. Anything that you want, Matt? Anything you want to mention?
Nostalgia Time with Kid Champagne is going to be coming back. We're going to be having an episode commentating the Disney and Universal theme parks coming up this week, and also holiday month is coming up. So we're going to have some great topics, starting with Die Hard franchise.
I love it.
Also with William which has some of its own Ghostbusters connections. William Atherton, Willem von Homburg,
Reginald L. Johnson,
and Reginald L. Johnson, and Mary Ellen Trainor.
Wow. Yeah, she was in the second. She wasn't in the first Ghostbusters.
No, she was in the second.
She played Jason Reitman's mother. Right. Forrest, any plugs for you?
I'm on a podcast called Inside Movies Galore. We're live every Tuesday. You can find us on YouTube. We're live every Tuesday night at 9:30 Eastern. This week, as of this recording, we're going to be discussing Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yes. Awesome.
My favorite Disney movie, personally.
Nice.
And I also have a movie coming out in 2022. Is my feature film acting debut. It's called Amityville Thanksgiving.
All right. Very exciting.
So there's that to look forward to.
Can you give us a little sneak peek at the role?
All I can say is that I play a hooded figure known only as the Entity.
Oh, I love it. Oof.
And when I told my parents about this, my dad's like, "Hey, maybe you'll be the next Freddy or Jason." Which honestly, I would rather be the next Freddy or Jason than the next George Clooney or Leonardo DiCaprio.
I love your goals and aspirations. Nick, any plugs for you at this time?
Yeah, listen to Command the Mic. It's available anywhere you find podcasts. We will be having an episode coming out in the next few days or weeks where we discussed the 2021 World Series and the impending Major League Baseball lockout, as well as some free agent predictions. So check that out wherever you find your podcasts.
Go Yankees.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And Matt, before we go, did you want to do a little
Yes.
salute?
As for Kid Champagnes, it says, we salute to this movie Ghostbusters Afterlife. We hope it continues on the legacy of Ghostbusters, and we hope it generates a franchise with great new stories to come and movies to come along, whether it's through the original team or through
A new
generation to come, to Ghostbusters Afterlife.
We salute you. And I also want to do a plug before we go. If you want to see new episodes of Under the Radar, you can check it out on Manhattan Neighborhood Network every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can also check out the show on cable TV, channels FiOS 34, RCN 83, and Spectrum 56 and 1996. And feel free to also check out the Under the Radar YouTube channel to subscribe and share and spread the word. And I want to thank my guests today, Matt Haberman, aka Kid Champagne. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Same with you, Mr. Forrest Bennett. Thank you, sir.
Randy, always a pleasure.
Yes, yes. And Nick Commando, thank you as well, sir.
You're welcome.
And everyone watching at home and on your devices, I'm Randy Younger. This has been Under the Radar. I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.